Friday, July the 10th. Center court. The grass has been chewed raw by 2 weeks of desperate tennis, and now it comes down to this: one match, one net, and two men who refuse to let the other have the last word. He is 39 years old. He should not still be here. And yet here he is, Novak Djokovic, the Serbian who has turned Wimbledon into his personal cathedral, standing on the edge of history with a target on his back that grows heavier every single year. 8 Wimbledon titles would tie him with Roger Federer. 25 Grand Slams would put him alone at the summit of the sport, untouched, unmatched, a number no one else has ever reached. But history does not hand out gifts. It demands blood first. And 2 nights ago, Djokovic paid in full. 5 hours, 5 sets, the longest quarterfinal in the history of this tournament. He was hurt early, his body betraying him in the sweltering heat, and still he refused to fall. Point after brutal point against Felix Auger-Aliassime, a man 20 years his junior, a man who had lost only one service game at this tournament before that night. Djokovic broke him, twice, in a match that stretched past 5 hours and 13 minutes, in temperatures that would break most competitors in straight sets. The old champion simply would not leave the court a loser. When it was finally over, he didn't celebrate like a man who'd won. He looked like a man who'd survived a war. "It's just another semi-final for me," he said afterward, almost too exhausted to lie convincingly. But everyone watching knew the truth. This one mattered more than most. Now, across the net stands the man who is supposed to be the future of this sport, and who nearly saw that future collapse just weeks ago. Jannik Sinner, 24 years old, the world number 1, the defending Wimbledon champion, walked into Roland Garros as the man to beat and walked out in the second round, stunned by an unranked Argentine named Juan Manuel Cerundolo. It was the kind of loss that makes people whisper. The kind of loss that makes you wonder if the pressure of carrying a sport on your shoulders had finally cracked something. For a player who had reached 5 straight Grand Slam finals, this wasn't just a defeat, it was a warning shot. A crack in the armor of the man everyone assumed was unbeatable. So Sinner did what champions do. He didn't hide from it. He came to the grass, and he answered brutally, relentlessly, almost silently. Match after match, he dropped only a single set at this entire tournament in the very first round, and even then it came after he'd fought through it with a bloodied nail inside his own shoe. Since then, nothing. Straight sets. Clean, clinical, terrifying tennis. He dismantled Jan-Lennard Struff without so much as a flicker of doubt. This is not a man limping into a semifinal. This is a man who took a gut punch in Paris and turned it into fuel. And here is where the story becomes almost impossible to write any better. These two have already met once this year, in January at the Australian Open semifinals, and it was Djokovic who walked away with the win, snapping a 5-match losing streak against the world number 1. Sinner still leads their head-to-head, 6 wins to 5, but the most recent chapter belongs to the old lion, which means every single question is still alive. Can Djokovic do it again? Can he summon, for the 3rd time in 4 years, the kind of performance that has haunted Sinner in the biggest moments? Or has Sinner finally learned how to slay the ghost that has stood between him and total domination of this sport? Because make no mistake, this is the 3rd time in 4 years these two have collided in this exact semifinal. Sinner beat him here in 2025. Djokovic beat him here in the years before that. The score is even. The stage is the same. And now, with everything on the line, they meet again, not in some early round where mistakes can be forgiven, but in the final 4, 1 match from immortality for one of them and 1 step from heartbreak for the other. Think about what each man is carrying onto that court. Djokovic isn't just playing for a place in Sunday's final. He's playing for an 8th Wimbledon crown that would draw him level with Federer. He's playing for a 25th Grand Slam that no man in the history of tennis has ever touched. He's playing at 39 years old, against a body that fought through 5 brutal sets just days ago, and somehow, impossibly, still has enough left in the tank to threaten the best player alive. Every rally could be his last of the tournament. Every point could be the one where his legs finally say no more. And yet, somehow, you get the sense he wouldn't have it any other way. This is the mountain he keeps choosing to climb. And Sinner is playing for validation. For proof that Roland Garros was a blip, not a symptom. For the chance to defend the title he won last year in silence, once and for all, the doubts that crept in after Paris. He knows exactly what awaits him. He has won this tournament so many times, Sinner admitted, and he knows exactly how to approach it. That is not the language of a man who's overconfident. That is the language of a man who respects the storm he's about to walk into. So, when the players finally step onto center court this Friday, understand what you are witnessing. This is not just a semifinal. This is generations colliding. This is the calculating, ruthless brilliance of youth against the unbreakable will of a legend who simply refuses to write his final chapter. Somewhere on the other side of the draw, Alexander Zverev and the stunning Wimbledon surprise Arthur Ferry will be fighting for their own place in Sunday's final. But let's be honest, almost no one will be thinking about them in this moment. All eyes all across the world will be locked onto one court, watching to see which of these two men blinks first. Because when Djokovic and Sinner step onto that grass, one truth becomes unavoidable. Greatness doesn't get handed to anyone. It gets torn away, point by agonizing point, until only one man is left standing. And on Friday, July the 10th, we finally find out who that man will be.